Hello and welcome, but not to the garden today. Just a quick video. I've had a parcel arrive and in here should be my seed potatoes for at least the first half of this year. Undoubtedly I will get some later in the year to plant for the autumn and just into winter, sort of Christmas potatoes if you like. But in here I've got my, should be, first earlies, second earlies and main crops. So these came from Marshall's, and ordinarily one might be a little bit disappointed that they arrive so soon. They appear in the garden centres far too early, and by the time the sort of sensible period for chitting and planting potatoes arrives a little bit later in the year, most of the tubers are gone, or they've got long scraggly shoots on and are no good at all. So I always think that seed potatoes are shipped out far too early. For us though, it's a bit of an advantage because we always like to start our first crop of first earlies in the greenhouses, and our target is to get the first harvest by the end of April, something we usually manage to do. And even last year we managed to get a crop by the end of April, despite the really cold spring. They grow fine in the greenhouse here. Of course, I'm in the south of England, and that undoubtedly helps quite a lot. And we've got in the greenhouses, we've got a south-facing wall at the back, and that certainly helps keep the frost away. So I had a little bit of difficulty getting the varieties I wanted. Usually we do 20 pots of the first earlies, 10 each of two different varieties. This year, because the bags of tubers were so big, I thought I'd just get one variety, and I wanted Arran Pilot again. It's a really great flavoured potato. I think one of the best flavoured of the first earlies. For some reason, I couldn't get that one anywhere. It was out of stock everywhere I looked. And I got instead Sharpe's Express. That's one we've grown many times before as well. It's a nice little potato, but it's quite floury, so better steamed than boiled. And even then you have to be a little bit careful. They've got a tendency to break apart. And then for the second earlies, well, I wanted International Kidney, but that's another one that's just not available this year. I think there was some kind of problem with the crop and couldn't get that one anywhere. So I've got instead Charlotte that was offered as a substitute, and it's a fairly reasonable substitute for that one. And then I've got a couple of main crops. So let's see what I've got. Well, those are my main crops on top. That doesn't help. Well, there's my Sharpe's Express, and that should be my Charlottes. So yeah, the Charlottes look quite good. Nice, solid. No sign of any growth on those yet, which is ideal. So what I'm going to do today is put the first earlies in some egg boxes here and just stand them up and get them chitting straight away. I can see actually that some of these have already got shoots starting. If I were to be setting these outside, that wouldn't be great, but it's ideal for us. So I'm going to lay those out. The other three I will get in the fridge, and that will just slow down any development of shoots. If I leave them even somewhere like down the shed or something, it's going to be a little bit too warm. They're quite likely to start shooting away, and I don't want that. They're going to be too far advanced when I come to plant them out. So put them in the fridge for a month or month and a half, and then I will take some out and get them chitting. And that just sort of slows them down a little bit. The Sharpe's Express here, well, I mean, they're good tubers, but they are pretty big. I'm not sure I've got quite as many as I actually need there. I'll see in a minute when I lay them out. But you can, of course, cut a tuber. If it's got plenty of shoots on it, you can cut it in half and just allow the cut surface to dry for at least some days before planting, and it's perfectly all right. I mean, a potato plant will grow from peelings, so it's not a problem. They don't need the whole bulk of the potato there. I'll have a look at those in a minute. So the Sharpe's Express for our first harvest, and then I've got the Charlottes instead of International Kidney. So I will be planting those. Will go outside in larger tubs. Now, for my main crop this year, I've only got two. I've got Belle de Fontenay again, and that's a really wonderful potato. Well, I've got a real mixed bag of sizes here. Again, that doesn't really matter too much. It's the number of shoots that's important. But yeah, these look fairly good. So that's a waxy potato. It's not entirely dissimilar from the Charlotte, but this is a slower growing sort, and it stores very well. It's a really tasty potato, that one. I'm very fond of that. We did grow that last year. Our main crop potatoes didn't do as well as I would have liked, so I'm hoping to get rather a better harvest of them this year. And then, well, I'm using this as a main crop. Strictly speaking, this is a second early, and it's a Dutch variety, and I suppose therefore it ought to be pronounced Wilja, something like that. This is a really good performing potato. It's always done incredibly well for us. Now, it is a second early. My experience of it is that it will store pretty much as well as a main crop. It's one of those odd ones. It's not a waxy potato. It's sort of midway between waxy and floury. A really versatile potato. You can use this for anything. It's great just boiled. Makes good mash. You can roast it. If you only had one main crop potato, you'd need it to be a versatile one, so you can do all the things you want to do with them. This one is a really good example of that. Strictly speaking, it is a second early, which is potentially advantageous because it's going to bulk up those tubers a little bit more quickly than the sort of main crops that I was growing last year. And if we get blight again, we had a lot of blight last year. It's quite an advantage to have at least one of the main crop varieties that is a bit on the early side. There are a few that sit in a sort of grey zone. They're either second earlies or early main crops, and that's quite handy. Some of the others that we really like, things like pink fir apple, for example, that is a really late main crop potato, and that therefore is quite likely to get hit with blight later in the season. Yeah, this one's very nice. Fairly small tubers on these, which is ideal. So I've got a lot of them there to play with. That's a little bit modern for me. Usually I'm growing old varieties. Of course, Charlotte is a fairly modern variety as well. Wilja, I think, that was raised, if I remember rightly, it was raised in the 60s and released in the 70s. So I suppose it's not modern anymore, but I think of that as a modern variety. But this one, yeah, I really like that potato. So those are going into the fridge shortly, and these I'm going to set out to chit straight away. Well, that's the rose end. I can see plenty of young shoots starting to just appear there. One or two of these have nasty big shoots on. I'll see how they develop, but you can always rub those off if you don't like them. Now, these are big old potatoes for Sharpe's Express. I don't expect to get tubers that size from my early crop. but they're all pretty solid. So I bought these tubers from Marshall's, not a company I usually use, but I was trawling around the internet, seeing who had varieties that I would like. And well, initially I thought they had them, but of course I then got contacted to say that International Kidney was not going to be available this year and offered a replacement, which is fine. I mean, it's not the end of the world. We often do grow International Kidney, and it is a nice one to grow. But Charlotte is a great potato as well, so it's not a problem. Yeah. Well, that's a bit of a messy shoot on there. I don't like that one. I will probably rub that one off. The tubers are sound, so what have I got here? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 18, 19. Well, isn't that just my luck? So one of these big old fellas here, at least, is going to get the chop, and I will turn that into 2 seed potatoes. I only need a couple of the shoots on each half, so I'll pick a likely candidate that's given me plenty of shoots, and it will get the chop, but not for a couple of weeks yet. These are just going to sit somewhere in the kitchen, I would think. There's reasonable light here, and the temperature's okay. It doesn't want to be too hot, actually. So over by our kitchen windows, I think, would be a good place for these. Definitely don't want to put them in the dark. You get nasty old chits there. Well, actually, you get what these fellas would turn into if they were kept in this box for another week. We've already got the start of some white shoots there. And as I say, I may rub some of those off, but with a bit of luck, I mean, they're still quite stubby. They should probably green up now they're in the light, and they should be fine. But anyway, that is the varieties I am growing this year. In the latter half of it, I will probably end up again with more Charlottes and, what did I grow this year? Nicola. And yeah, they were very nice potatoes. Didn't get a great harvest. Blight wiped out the majority of our autumn sown potatoes, which was a pity, but hoping for a better year this time round. Anyway, that is all for this video. Thanks ever so much for watching, and bye for now.